Cars are on their jacks for the start of race 2 here in Salzburg, and that is because rain has begun to fall around the Salzburgring circuit, and tyre choice is very, very important. Plenty of drama after race 1, plenty of cars in the pits to be fixed. As you can see, the humidity has gone up since the earlier race. The air temperature is still pretty hot, but now a real tricky decision for the teams and drivers. In the pits, Dusan Borkovic's car not going out for the second race, but more importantly, neither is Pepe Oriola's car. They have not managed to locate the problem that he felt in race 1. And so Oriola, at the moment, with his helmet off, the car on the jacks, and many a mechanic staring into the engine bay to try to work out what's happened. Well, this was Dusan Borkovic's car a little bit earlier on. Plenty of damage, including the punctured tyre, which sent him into the barriers. Sergei Afanasyev did brake park firme to get his car fixed, but he will start on the grid. Great work from the Kraft Bamboo Lukoil team. Dusan Borkovic taking off his race suit. The end of another weekend, another frustration for the Serbian driver that's had much success in many other championships, but that's his 4th retirement of the season. Hasn't scored since his 3rd position in Spa. So the grid looks very different then. Tassi, well, that's not the grid at all, in fact. Tassi will start on the pole. Grashov will be alongside him, but there's no Peter Fullin in 3rd position. The Alfa Romeo will not start. So Jordi Oriola will start in 4th spot. Whether there'll be a gap or whether everyone will move up, I'm not sure. Morbidelli, 5th. Oriola will not start there either. If he was declared to brake park firme, then the cars behind will move up, but otherwise there'll be a gap. Then Jean Calvinet in 7th. Harold Procek in 8th. They got his car fixed after damage in turn 1. Mato Homler 9th and Florian Janitz in 10th position. Stefano Camini 11th. Kajaya 12th. Nash, again, the man who finished 2nd in race 1, down in 13th position, has to do it all again. Michele Ceruti will start in 14th, then Sergei Afanasyev will start in 15th at the back of the field. So what it means is there are gaps, as you can see, between the front row of the field and what is effectively the 3rd row. Borkovic has got, the mechanics have got plenty of work to do on his car. Safety car now heads out onto circuit. Now, it'd be interesting to see, if we can follow this safety car, where the rain is and also what tyres people have. This is Attila Tassi, the man on the front row of the grid. He looks like he's got slick tyres on. Great work from our cameraman. Yep, that is slick front tyres. So even though it's raining, he's decided to have slick front tyres, and I'm presuming, therefore, slick rears as well. Hoping the rain stays away, Attila Tassi. Vital information, because I think we saw Michele Ceruti at the back of the field in her little Alfa, definitely on wet weather tyres earlier on. You can see tyres being moved around at the back of the field. There will be a point in which they will not be able to fit tyres any longer. The Honda of Mikhail Grashov is also wearing slick tyres. So the rain is falling, but how much is it falling? It's a slick all round for Grashov. Now the hope is, if it falls like it did yesterday, it was torrential downpour, and therefore the race director will probably throw a red flag. Therefore anyone on the slick tyres will be in a favourable position at that point. But if it is just spitting and there's plenty of people looking up at the sky, no, that's raining, that's definitely raining. But on the grid, it's clearly not raining enough for the guys at the front of the field to think that they need wet tyres. Attila Tassi and Mikhail Grashov have made the wrong tyre choice here, and they've only got 30 seconds to change their choice. So big gaps then where there is no Pepe Oriola. Here's Jordi Oriola, his brother, and Jordi is also on the slick tyre. Now you can do a split strategy. You can put slicks on the front and then wets on the rear to displace the to keep the rear stable. But our front 3 cars are all wearing slick tyres, and we've seen by that camera shot that it's definitely raining. Look at that, it's definitely rain. I'm not dreaming that. In qualifying, we saw one part of the circuit wet, whereas the other part of the circuit was drier. Here is Gianni Morbidelli looking, he can't take the championship lead, but he can certainly reduce the gap. He's also on full slick. But in the background, around the Fahrenheit curve, which is where the weather comes from the west, it was, well, we've seen it's raining, and there is more evidence of it. It might not have hit the start-finishing line yet, but all of these drivers are choosing slick tyres. I'm hoping that someone's been sensible further back and has gone for the wet tyre option. It's starting to look a little bit slicker on the front row. And all of these guys are going to be charging into the first corner. Venet on the wets. Watch out for Jean-Carl Venet then. He might chew his tyres up, but he's full wet. And we're hearing that everybody else behind Jean-Carl Venet is on the wet tyre. So simply the front four have gone for the slick. And that's going to, well, I'm afraid that's going to be the wrong decision. That's definitely rain. And if they were sensible, and if they watched other series, those front four would come directly into the pits and get their tyres changed. Here's Harold Procek. He's on the wet tyre, as you can see. His teammates are not further forward, but Harold knows the weather here. He knows the circuit. And he was very fast in the wet conditions to take the provisional pole time before he got a penalty. And that's because he knows where the grip is in wet conditions. Now, the grip is not necessarily on track in the same places when it's dry as to when it's wet. You have what's called a wet racing line, and that tends to be off where the majority of the rubber has been laid down. It tends to be a little bit grippier, and we saw Procek with a very different line through the Fahrenheit curve. Oh dear, mistake from Grashov. Now, Neil Hudson of Touring Car Times said it was going to be a Grashov win, third in a row. The only man to do three from the front row of the grid. You wouldn't bid against him, but now the rain is falling, you definitely would. Michaela Cerruti with a problem at the back of the field, so she's going to incur a penalty. The mechanic's not away from her car. So Grashov, Morbidelli, Oriola, and Tassi are your four cars that are wearing slick tyres, and it is raining. I don't really understand the sense in that. It wasn't really mixed conditions either. It's just definitely raining. Either way, the job now for Tassi and those front four is to get a lot of heat into those front tyres. I mean, a lot of heat into the front tyres. And try and burn their way through these wet conditions. Cerruti is going nowhere. Afanasiev doesn't know whether he should pass her or not. I think the water might have gotten to the electrics of the Alpha. That's a shame. So she is not moving, and the marshals will scuttle to her assistance and try and get her off the circuit. She can still get going. She's allowed to join the back of this field, but now the last car has passed her. She is not able to take up her rightful grid position. Not that really matters. Here are the points after the first race. Camini has closed the gap to Oriola and will do so even further with Oriola no scoring here. Nasha needs to win to take the points lead of Oriola. Camini can do a second or a third, and that would be enough. But it's going to close the championship up as they go to Oschersleben in 2 weeks' time, and that's always a good thing. No doubt about it. Right, so around this part of the circuit, it is, what do we reckon, dry? That tarmac doesn't look wet to me, and this is exactly what we saw yesterday in qualifying, but eventually it gets there. So now Tassi needs to work those tyres super, super hard, get as much temperature into them as possible so he can just about survive the last part of the lap. Because the last part of the lap, as we've seen, there is Michele Cerruti basking in the wet conditions. And sadly, we will have no Alfa Romeos in the second race here in Salzburg. So halfway up the straight, they then hit rain. So those drivers with the slick tyres are going to be pretty strong on the first couple of corners, but then who knows what will happen when they get up to the Fahrenheit curve. 15 laps is on offering for them. Nash and Afanasiev at the back of the field. And sadly, no Alfa Romeo. Great to have them back here. Lots of work done by John Gentry. And the pace is there, but sadly, reliability issues and various little problems with Michaela jumping a tooth in the engine when she went off in practice. And obviously, Peter Fullin getting caught up in the accident at the start of race 1. I don't know how these guys with the slick tyres are going to cope through this part of the lap. If I was the front four, if I was Morbidelli, I'd be going into the pits right now and getting those tyres changed. There's no point trying to stick with this. They're going to lose bundles of time and probably end up in the barrier trying to get their slick-shod cars through those super fast turns. They're also going to cause problems with the guys further back who are going to have a lot of grip going through there. There's no point. It's better to be on the wet tyres. And indeed, Tassi, Grashov, Jordi Ariola and Gianni Morbidelli all come into the pits to get those tyres changed. That means Jean Calvinet is kinda on pole position, with Harold Procek alongside him, exactly what we saw in race 1. The front 4 drivers all chose slick tyres. It was the wrong call, and now they're in the pits, getting them changed so they can join the back of the field. The rest of the cars take their positions in the grid. We're missing 4 in the pits. We've got another couple that have retired out of the weekend. Either way, we are going to go racing for 15 laps around the Salzburgring. The lights illuminate, and when they go out, we are racing here in Salzburg. Who gets a good start? Who gets a bad start? Procek, a horrible start. So does Hommler. Nasher has to go to the grass to get round Hommler because he's just standing still. And Jean Calvinet is going to lead once again going in to the first turn. David Kajaya and Florian Janitz are second and third. And then Kamini fourth. Procek in fifth. And thankfully, they all get through safely. The question will now be, when do those remaining 4 join the back? How much time have they lost changing their tyres and making the wrong call? It's now starting to get wet, even down in the Nockstein. And now the 4 remaining machines at the back of the field have left the pits. You can see them in the background, and I'll be able to tell you in a second who is out in front, but the leader of the race is Jean Calvinet, Kajaya, and we've got Volkswagen 1, 2, 3, 4. Drive-through penalty for Florian Janitz, the 45 car. No idea why. Into the braking zone at the end of the lap, and there are our 4 drivers joining the race then. Ariola and, we've got Michaela Cerruti's car going. That's nice to see. She actually scored a point in race 1. Tiptoeing their way through the chicane then. Janitz turns in a bit late. I think he's going to offer Stefano Camini the opportunity to get past there, but he's got to go into the pits anyway. Camini goes through. Doesn't really have the traction, but is Janitz coming into the pits anyway? Yes, he is. Here comes Procek. There is so much spray. And of course, the tree-lined circuit holding that spray into the valley as well. There's no wind to get rid of it, and therefore visibility is going to be horrible further back. Vinay, Kajaya, Kamini, Procek. Nash is already up to 5th. Afanasiev 6th. Hommler 7th. And there is the back of the first group of cars. And then you've got Tassi, Morbidelli, Ariola, Cerruti. And where's Mikhail Grashov gone? Did he come out of the pits? Maybe his West Coast team were very slow. They were. He's way back, 42 seconds off the lead. So it took a long time to get Grashov's car changed. And he's already 42 seconds back. What we need is a safety car now to punch them all back so we can have a nice close touring car style race. Down the back straight, the spray lingers. And all you can see are the lights, and that's why it's so important to have the lights on. There's Grashov back on circuit. As I say, 42 seconds behind our leader. There's a 12-second gap between Attila Tassi, who is the leader of the second group, and the back of the front group, which are these 3, Nasher, Sergei Afanasiev and Mato Homela, who's dropping off the back. Mato, first real chance to experience these wet Michelin tyres. Same with James Nash, actually, because James didn't do a huge amount of running in Estoril when it was raining there. So they're very good tyres. They're very good wet weather tyres. And of course, Jean Calvinet has a massive benefit here because he's got clean track ahead. He's got nobody kicking up the spray in front of him, so he can see where he's at. Nash against Afanasiev coming into turn one. Afanasiev on the wrong part of the circuit. He's not going to find a way through there. James Nash claims the corner. They are really, really tentatively creeping around this circuit. Not that wet still around the eastern part. And Afanasiev dives to the inside. But Nash is going to go all around the outside where there is a lot more grip. And he's going to keep that position. They are going to go side by side, though. Afanasiev now into the slipstream. That's going to be even worse. Oh, look, it's kind of dry. Until there. Literally half the circuit is wet and the other half is dry. And now they're side by side. I think Afanasiev's already got through. He has. James Nash has let him go. Michele Cerruti and Mikhail Grashov, the last two of our 13 runners. And here's David Kajaya in second spot, Kamini in third, and then Procek. And this is exactly what the Volkswagens have been asking for. They're struggling with top speed down the back straight, about 10 kilometers off. They've got a little bit of extra weight this weekend as well, although that's negligible, really. But Jean Calvinet desperately wanted wet conditions because he felt like the car was good in the wet. Oh, James Nash isn't really struggling to get the car balanced through the chicane there. Now they come down into the chicane for what is the fourth time. Turn in early, not so much confidence with the front end of the car. I can tell you that Pepe Oriola has not started this race after a technical problem the Bamboo guys could not identify, and therefore he will score no points in this weekend. Gianni Morbidelli needs to turn his lights on, otherwise he's going to be disqualified out of this race. He's getting a warning from the race direction. And you can see why it's so important. It is a real safety issue. If you go into that spray with no lights on, it's impossible to know where your competitors are. Now, the problem also with the track being half wet, half dry is that through those first couple of corners, you are going to overheat the wet tyres, and that can really then jeopardize their performance in what is torrential conditions in the second half of the circuit. The boss of Lukoil watching on with the Craft Bamboo team. Stefano Camini looking a little bit stronger than David Kajaya now. It was the opposite way round in race one. The Lukoil, the Liqui Moly Team Enxler car was better than the Leopold Racing Volkswagen. But in the wet conditions, Camini looks like he's got the measure of his Georgian compatriot. Visit Georgia on the windscreens of all of these cars. Very, very happy man, David Kajaya, and the boss of the TCR series has been to see the Georgian track. Look at the rain belting down on the start-finish straight. Kajaya's on the inside line, Camini's on the outside. Now for the braking zone. Really no way through for Camini. He's going to have to blend back in. Going to have to think about how he's going to do it elsewhere. Kajaya's got his window down because he's probably fogging up inside that car, so he's dropped the window to try and equalize the temperature inside and out and maximize visibility. Other little tricks that the teams will do, will put Rain-X on the inside of the windscreen. They might also have a heated windscreen to clear any fog. That's also a consideration, especially with the two different, such contrasting different conditions here. That rain is slowly creeping further and further down the track, isn't it? And at one point, it is going to be wet around the whole circuit. These boys are very, very brave. This is an incredibly fast circuit. Oh, black flag for Michele Cerruti for having a mechanic working on the car before after the 3-minute signal. bit of a shame that it's a black flag, because normally that's a drive-through penalty or something like that, because it's sometimes necessary, and it certainly was in Cerruti's case. It was necessary for her mechanic to still be trying to get the car working. Either way, we're watching the battle for second position between Stefano Camini, our championship runner-up so far this year and champion last year. His Volkswagen dancing around under braking over the really, really wet conditions now down the start-finish straight. And I was saying, these guys are so brave. They're doing plus 200 kilometers per hour at the end of that straight, almost flat out into the first part of that right-hander. And every lap, they don't know what kind of speed that they can take into this corner, because every lap, the rain keeps moving. There is Michela Cerruti. What a shame. Alfa needs to be out on track. It needs as much work as it can possibly do. So giving her a black flag is a real pity. That means that she does have to come into the pits and retire the car out of the race. And she will not score points. She did score a point, though, in race 1, so that was nice to have Alfa on the board. What other battles are going on circuit? This is the main one between Camini and Kajaya. Everyone else is pretty well spaced out. Every lap, the conditions change. Every lap, the grip is in a different place. Jean Calvinet has a 5-second lead out the front of the field. Now, he was a Red Bull Junior at one point, if you remember, and we're not far from the Red Bull headquarters in Fulci here. Jean Calvinet lived in Fulci for 2 years as a Red Bull driver and never, ever even set foot in the Salzburgring. If you're a Lechner Racing School graduate, then you do all your training down here. There is Jean Calvinet. Kajaya still holding on to second. Now, James Nash has moved up his position. And where's Harold Procek? There's Harold Procek. What's happened to him? It looks like a technical problem. Procek was in 4th spot. And he's now dropping down the field, and he's going to retire the car. That's a shame for Harold. This is his local circuit. He was super fast, but something wrong with the West Coast Racing Honda, and he's pulled it off to the side of the circuit. Halfway through the race then, Camini, once again in that slipstream, Volkswagen versus Volkswagen, but what we saw is that the Liqui Moly Engsler car does have more speed down this back straight than the Leopold Racing machine. Oh, big twitch as the rear aquaplanes along the back straight. And the team watch on. The bravery and the car control that our drivers are having to demonstrate today is really, really impressive. Now, the rain has kind of eased around that part of the circuit, hasn't it? The torrential pouring of rain has moved its way down the start-finishing straight, down now towards the first half of the lap. So this is where it kind of gets worse, isn't it? You can see. And it's still bucketing down, and there's a big old river coming across the circuit there. And Camini hits it now. Oh, and both the cars squirm under braking. Oh, ooh, Kajaya locks up into the barrier and into the gravel trap and out of the race. That happened a long way back. He hit the puddle and it locked all 4 tyres. It's put Camini up into second position. It's going to promote Sergei Afanasyev into third. And I wonder if we'll see race control. Look, he hits the puddle, and as soon as he's hit the puddle, he's got absolutely no slowing down at all. He's completely destroyed that tyre stack. But the puddle meant the front wheels locked, the rear wheels then locked, and Kajaya was a passenger. What a shame. He was on course for a great result. That's just how treacherous it is out on track at the moment. Meanwhile, Jean Calvinet continues to lead this race from his teammate Stefano Camini. We do have a safety car. We've got a safety car to retrieve Kajaya's car. That's going to bunch everyone together. That gives those drivers that went into the pits a bit more of a chance. You can see now it's a tricky one for race control here because the conditions have definitely eased around the second half of the lap. Over the start-finishing line, there's a lot of water. But the rain is falling much less than it was previously. There is a river going across the circuit, but all the teams know about it. We'll be able to see it just around here. You can see the water's congregating. Do you see the river there, just across the track? That is what caught out Kajaya. The car locked up over that river, aquaplaned, and then he just didn't get the ability to slow the car down further. But that seems to be the only real problem point. It's quite wet on the very inside there, on the right-hand side. And the tractor is going to move those tyres back into its rightful place. I'm not quite sure. Race Control have got another tyre stack to put onto the apex curb of the first chicane. It's there to demark the apexes because they're so low. It's very hard to see when you're in these cars. There's also quite a step behind the curb, and the race director did not want the cars dipping into that and maybe damaging their tyres. So Procek out the race, Cerruti out the race, Kajaya out the race. That means we've now got just 10 runners. So all of the cars on track will score points. What a shame that we don't have an Alfa Romeo out there to sweep up and take another couple of positions. And in fact, anyone who's in the pits who could get fixed could go back out again. So here's a replay of the race start. Nothing really remarkable. You can see that the conditions were better then. Really bad problem, really bad start from Procek and Hommler. And we're hearing from the pits that Procek's engine just stopped. So maybe water in the electrics for that car. But look how much drier it is going into turn one. Afanasiev dived down the inside of Hommler, but here's the accident again. So they hit that river, bang, there we go. The car starts to twitch, then he's hard on the brakes, the wheels are turning, he's got lock on, but he's not got any kind of retardation to slow the car down, and the only thing that's going to slow the car down is gravel and a tyre stack. Yes, you can't clap somebody else's failure. The team boss there of Leopard Racing kind of looking at one of his team members going, don't clap, you can't clap. What it does mean is we've got a 1-2 for Leopard at the front of the field, but then we've got Afanasiev and Nash right behind them. And remember, those two Seats are faster along the back straight. James has hopefully found himself a bit more comfortable now with the car. Matto Hommler is 5th, Tassi 6th, Morbidelli 7th, Oriola 8th, Janitz 9th, and Grashov 10th. The river is still there. It's raining harder at the end of the circuit in the Nockstein, where we are now, but it is not raining as much in the pit lane. The cloud has slowly rolled through this valley, and it's exactly the conditions that we saw yesterday in qualifying. There are 10 cars remaining. When the safety car comes in, we're going to have a couple of extra laps because of the safety car lap, so the race will be an increased distance. We still haven't had the worst of the rain here, though, have we? The circuit still looks okay. I mean, it's not dry, but it's not half as flooded as other parts of the track. And the good old Austrian fans out braving the weather. They're very used to these kind of conditions out here. This circuit would be covered in snow in the winter. And as it sits in the valley, the snow would not disappear for a while. Beautiful mountains around the region. Cross-country skiing in the winter, hiking in the summer, mountain biking, and then the Salzburg city just 30 kilometers away. A beautiful place to visit. A great racetrack. A really old school racetrack. A scary racetrack in conditions like this, no doubt. And John Carbonet has never raced here before this weekend, and is leading the race. He led race 1 for a short period of time anyway. And he's leading race 2 with Kamini behind him. Afanasiev both raced here last year. James Nash has raced here in the World Touring Car Championship, Matto Homola in the European Touring Car Championship. He's the least experienced of our top 5. There's Homola and Tassi, Morbidelli, Oriola, Janitz and Grashov. Now, are we under a prolonged safety car period to let the rain disappear? Why have we still got the safety car out? It's not going to clear this puddle. This puddle is going to be here for the end of the race. We can't just go around behind the safety car for 6 laps. The drivers know it's there. They're going to keep to the middle of the track because it's a bit bigger, actually, on the left-hand side. Presume that the tyre stack isn't being replaced on the driver's right here. There are Liqui Moly Team Enxler fans, always a big presence from Liqui Moly here in Salzburg. A local track for them. They always bring a good legion of fans here. We've got a nice hospitality unit above the pits, and they've been enjoying some wonderful food. We had a big team evening last night in the hospitality unit, where all the teams, all the drivers were invited to come and join us. And we had a lovely evening of celebrations. Safety car is on track to analyze the straight, work out how much standing water still is on it. The little puddle that we just seen there. Here's another stream, but it's not too bad. These Michelin tyres, you see, are so good. And we've got a message on the screen. The safety car is going to come in this lap. So I'm really glad that Race Control are letting these drivers race. We know in other forms of motorsport that the safety car would be out until it basically dried up. But these boys are touring car racers. Got good tyres underneath them. They've been driving on this circuit in much worse conditions than this, and they are going to continue racing for the final 5 laps around the Salzburgring. We're all bunched together now, so the opportunity for people like Morbidelli, Oriola to make up some positions. There is Gianni. He's lying 7th right now. He's got Jordi Oriola behind him. We know the Honda's quick. It was quick in the wet conditions with Harold Procek, and it was quick in the dry conditions with Mikhail Grashov. When's Jean-Carl Venet going to go? I think he's just put the hammer down through the chicane. He has gone. He's left Stefano Camini. There's a gap as well to Sergei Afanasyev in 3rd, and we've got the green flag flying. We're back underway here in Salzburg for a final 5-lap dash. Not so much heat and pressure in the tyres. Be careful as they hit the river here. Venet to the inside. Everybody gets the cars slowed down. No, Camini runs deep. Camini goes deep and misses the chicane. That's going to blend him into position. Morbidelli and Oriola go side by side, and that's exactly why Race Control have put tyre stacks there. Afanasyev moves into 2nd position. Camini's going to lose that position to James Nash as well, I think. He's slotted back into 3rd. But he lost the rear end under braking. Kept it in control to stay out of the tyre barrier. And now onto the back straight. A sitting duck, the Volkswagens in race 1. Can James Nash take advantage of the slipstream from Stefano Camini and find a way through into the second half of this lap? Meanwhile, Jean-Carl Venet has scampered off. Looks like James Nash got out the throttle there down the back straight. He's dropped way back off Camini's car. Then comes the 2 B3 racing machines of Homola in 5th and Tassi in 6th. I'm just trying to work out who's in front of... We were seeing, I suppose the spray was coming from Jean-Carl Venet, wasn't it? Because we were looking at Stefano Camini in 3rd position. Gianni Morbidelli then, looking to try and find a way past Attila Tassi for 6th spot. Make hay whilst your championship rivals are sitting in the pits watching this one. Pepe Oriola, the leader of the championship, I remind you, not racing after a problem. Venet gets his car stopped. So does Afanasyev. Camini in 3rd. Nasher in 4th. Then Homola, Tassi, Morbidelli, Jordi, Oriola hops over the curbs. Oh, Tassi's made a mistake there. That's going to allow Gianni Morbidelli past quite easily, and Jordi Oriola's going to follow through as well, I think. Little mistake under traction coming out of the corner. Tassi's going to try and hold on the inside, but we've already seen, wow, a bit of understeer. Has he got his nose ahead? They go side by side out of the Nockstein, and now it's a drag race. Honda versus Seat. Who's braver through the puddles around the back? Side by side, they continue to run. No real slipstream advantage ahead of them. And in the fog and mist, it's hard to see where the two cars are, but Tassi's got more speed in the Seat. He claims the position, and Oriola is forced to slot behind him. Now dives to the inside. Good place to go down the inside here because it's not the racing line. There's more grip, but the car soon starts to slither to the outside. Oriola thinks about it, gives Tassi a little nudge. Now comes to the outside. Can he go around the outside here? That would be novel, but Tassi just edges him towards the grass. Oh, Oriola, lovely stuff. Keeps brave, stays on the outside line and claims the line for the chicane and moves up into a position. Attila Tassi then loses 2 spots in the lap. Morbidelli 6th, Oriola 7th, Tassi now 8th. I remind you, Attila Tassi, 16 years of age, first season in TCR, first season in these Seats, used to driving the Suzuki Swift Cup in Hungary. Much to learn in terms of racecraft. He was fast in the dry conditions. He was the fastest man in Q1, but struggling in the wet conditions. Florio Janitz now tries to go around the outside. Is he going to run out of track? He has. Oh no. Oh, understeers horribly into the gravel. Now he's just got to try and keep the car moving so he stays on track, which he's done, but he's thrown away a 9th spot to Mikhail Grashov, who's moved up 1 spot there. And the hopes of the Liqui Moly Team Enxler are now upon the shoulders of the young Austrian driver, Florian Janitz. He's going to have a point. It's going to be 1 point for 10th so far. And let's just see what happens here. This is Stefano Camini then. On the white line he was braking. You can see his tyre track. He was on the white line, locked the rears, couldn't get the car slowed down. And here is then Jordi Oriola jumping over the curbs, and then a great move later on to claim the 7th spot that he now sits in. And there's Janitz understeering embarrassingly towards the barrier down the Nockstein. Conditions improving. Last laps were the best laps from many. Oh, Jean Calvinet's gone straight on. Jean Calvinet, our race leader's gone straight on. Afanasiev moves through the chicane in 2nd, but what's going to happen when they come out? Surely then, Afanasiev's going to inherit the lead. Side by side, Afanasiev just about slots ahead. We have a new race leader. It was only this weekend where I was looking at the stats and thinking, Sergei Afanasiev has never, ever won a race in 30 attempts in the Touring Car International Series. And now he is ahead. He's leading the race, but he's side by side with Jean Calvinet. 2 laps remaining. We've got a fight on our hands. Still, down the back straight, Venet on the inside line then for the Fahrer Kurve, and Afanasiev is going to try and stick it out round the outside. The Volkswagen looking so much stronger in these wet conditions than we saw earlier. And for the moment, Venet is holding on. But Afanasiev is certainly applying the pressure now. Needs to go searching for the grip. Needs to look to see where they're in more grip now. The rain is easing, so it's just slippery rather than actually wet. And there is an opportunity to find bundles of time if you go exploring off the normal conventional racing line. Afanasiev can sniff victory here. James Nash has dropped off the back of these front 3. It was here last lap where Venet made a mistake. He brakes a little bit earlier this time to be a bit safer. Every lap they come into this turn, they don't know what grip they've got. That could have been Afanasiev's one chance to claim a victory. Venet's already taken a victory in Spa in race 2. And Afanasiev runs up the banking. Should be more grip at the top, really, you'd have thought. Different lines between the three drivers at the front. Is it going to be a 1-2, though? Can Stefano Camini claim back that second spot? They're close enough. Now, why is the Seat not as fast down this back straight as the Volkswagen? Race 1, we saw them absolutely flying down the back straight here. But for some reason, the Seat isn't as strong any longer in wet conditions. We're going to go on to our last lap. One more chance for Afanasiev to claim his maiden victory. He's taken second quite a few times. But never a victory. In fact, his best result is third, as I said in race 1. So it will be his best ever result if he stays in the position he's in, but surely he'll want the victory. Surely he can sniff the opportunity. On to the 17th and last lap here in Salzburg, and it's still, any little mistake could hand a victory to any one of these front three. Does Venet get the car slowed down? I think the front three are going to be okay. There's James Nash. Then we have Matto Hommler with Gianni Morbidelli right behind him. Hommler was on the podium in race 1. It's going to be a good weekend for him as well, with a third and a fifth. I have a feeling, unless we see anyone make a mistake going down into the last part of the lap, this is how it's going to stay. It's been an entertaining weekend's worth of action, climaxing with an incredibly tricky race 2 in horrible conditions at the Salzburgring. Now, car 9 has been given a technical flag for rear lights, even on the last lap. I wonder if that will accumulate to a penalty. It's Attila Tassi who's in 8th spot. Through that final turn then. No chance for Sergei Afanasiev, I don't think. He's just not close enough, is he? Camini in 3rd position behind. It's going to be a lovely result for Leopard. It's going to be the 3rd win of the season for Volkswagen, with Venet and Camini taking one apiece. That will equal Seat in terms of victories. Jean-Charles Venet had never set foot in this circuit before this weekend. Wasn't sure of his chances, took pole position surprisingly in the wet, and in race 2 here has taken victory. What a drive from the Frenchman. Second for Sergei Afanasiev, his best ever performance in the TCR International Series. And there'll be a party tonight because Stefano Camini will be on the 3rd step of the podium in what has been horrendously tricky conditions, but great to see celebrations down in the Leopard Racing Team, otherwise known as WRT, and that is why you might recognize Vincent Voss in his trademark hat. No Blancpain Racing this weekend for him to look after, and therefore is come to watch his team in TCR. Hugs all round, a 1st and a 3rd. Great, great effort. They knew it was going to be their best chance in the wet conditions. They didn't make any mistakes in terms of tyre choice like some of the other drivers. It effectively gave Jean-Charles Venet pole position. He lined up on the front row, therefore, on both race 1 and race 2. I think, fair to say, he's got the hang of this now. 1 point separates Camini and Pepe Ariola at the front. We've got a new championship leader now. James Nash is just a few points back in 3rd, and Venet has joined the party with Morbidelli and Hommler in 4th. The championship is closing up. 18 points was separating 1st from 2nd when we came here, and now it's 1st from 6th. And Oschersleben marks the midpoint of our adventure, the 2nd season of the TCR International Series. The final round in Europe will be in Oschersleben in support of the TCR Germany Championship. In 2 weeks' time, and then 2 weeks after that, we find ourselves in Russia, in Sochi, for Lukoil's home race, for Mikhail Grashov's home race. How will he be celebrated when we go there with 2 victories to his name? And of course, Sergei Afanasyev still in search of his maiden victory in the TCR International Series. Disappointment for Miki Cerruti's fans up there. They've had a lovely weekend drinking beer, sunbathing yesterday morning, but sadly weren't able to cheer her along in the second race after she picked up a black flag. A sea of turquoise then in Parc Fermé. Vincent Voss there giving Jean-Carl Venet a big old hug, and he goes over to his team. Good effort. C'est bon ça. That is good. And there is Stefano Camini celebrating with his team as well. You've got to say, I wonder whether they did something clever with their, knowing the raining conditions, I wonder whether they got the car set up for the rain. Harold Procek, a pointless weekend after taking provisional pole position. How very disappointing. For a moment, it was hot. His team tell Jean-Carl Venet. Indeed, there was a moment where Sergei Afanasyev just had a sniff of an opportunity to take victory away from Jean-Carl Venet, but he held on. Here is the result then. A second separating Venet from Afanasyev, and then another 2 seconds down, Stefano Camini. James Nash has a good weekend, a second and a fourth. Homola gets a third and a fifth, and Morbidelli picks up points in sixth. Oriola seventh. Tassi, I'm not sure whether he'll keep that eighth. Grashov and Janitz, the points scorers, after his trip through the gravel trap. The other three not finishing the race. Mid-race safety car caused by David Kajai is off. Procek retired, and Cerruti was black flag. Let's hear from our winner, Jean-Carl Venet.
Jean-Carl, congratulations. Second win of the season. A slightly surprising one.
I mean, when I saw the rain coming, I was like, okay, we're gonna do it. And especially the guys in front didn't put wet tires, so I had a clear view the first few laps, and I was able to make a pretty good gap. We were always faster on track. So no, I mean, I'm really happy for the team. This track, we knew that we're gonna be really slow, and on the dry it was terrible. The lack of top speed was completely crazy. I started first and finished fifth because we get lucky. Some guys crashed or get other problems. But no, I think it's a really good weekend. I scored 2 points in both races. Something didn't happen to me since Estoril. So it's pretty good. And after a difficult weekend in Imola, it's the best way to, as a recovering, I think, couldn't do better. P2, P5, and P1 now. So thanks to Leopard Racing, WRT, and all the sponsors we have on the car.
Well done.
Thank you.
Indeed, well done. He gets a hug from Stefano Camini. Look at that guy, still with a smile on his face. There we go, talking about the fact that Stefano locked up and went straight on the first chicane. So did J.K. Venet, and so did David Kajaya. There is the damage at the front end of his Volkswagen. All three of those drivers made that error, got caught out by the river across the circuit, locked the brakes, couldn't get the thing slowed down, and had to miss the chicane. I wonder if Sergei Afanasyev knows this is his best result ever. I think he might be a little frustrated that he missed out on the podium. Here is confirmation of the points then. Look at that, Camini takes the lead of the championship by 1 point over Pepe Oriola. Nash is well in there now, just 8 points back. Venet and Morbidelli on equal points. I'm sure that wasn't the case earlier on. And then Homola in sixth. The B3 Racing driver is now all in there and with points. Look at that. Borkovic down in 11th position. No points again from the weekend. And he's the kind of person coming in here you would have tipped for victory in the TCR International Series. He's done all the races and he's only got 47 points. Between him and Attila Tassi, they're the only two drivers who have done the full championship. 11th and 12th is where they languish. Just enough time then to get David Kajaya's crash in before we head to the podium ceremony. And some very cold-looking grid girls. Frank needs to give them a hug. Here is Stefano Camini then onto the podium. Along with him, Sergei Afanasyev, his best result in second position in TCR in 2 years, in 30 starts. And Jean Carvenet takes his second victory of the year. And we're going to hear the French national anthem. Congratulations, JK. Wonderful to have him once again on the top step of the podium. A reminder, took victory in his second race in Spa, reverse grid race win. And the first win for Leopard Racing Team at their home circuit. The trophy gets raised above his head. Slightly different design from the first one. I was kind of quite sure if I like that more or less. With a hole in the middle. You could put something in the middle, I suppose. Camini picks up his trophy, and Sergei Afanasyev takes his. I'm not quite sure what that means. A horn. And now the Pommery sprays on the podium. Lovely to have that. We've had a fantastic weekend's worth of racing here in Salzburg. All kinds of conditions, all kinds of action, from crashes to great overtakes. And we've got Jean Carvenet on the top step of the Race 2 podium and a championship hotting up. Oschersleben is next in 2 weeks' time, then Sochi in a month. Keep up to date with us on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube for all of the action and more from the TCR International Series. We'll see you in Oschersleben in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks for joining us.